Flight boss, bitch, for sure. You're not listening to the Mind Eminent Terry's Moon. I'm the Archangel Uriel, and I'm here to carry out God duties and motherfucking responsibilities. These motherfuckers is bright right now. But look, check me out. I'm here to talk about Chiron real quick. Now, Chiron, the asteroid Chiron. Now, Chiron heals wounds. You see what I'm saying? So, for something to heal wounds, right? For something to know, for something to heal wounds, it has to have been wounded itself. That's just like for you to know what something is, you had to be a part of it. You know how some people say it takes a bitch to know a bitch, it takes a pussy to know a pussy, you are what you eat, or it takes a nerd to know a nerd. You know what I'm saying? Things of that nature. So when we're talking about a asteroid that's dealing with healing, this is this is an asteroid that's either need to be healed or figured out ways to be healed. So when we and the only way is figuring out ways to be healed because it's been through a certain circumstance that you may have been through before. So when we talk about Chiron, it's dealing with the life the life it has is when you was born under that partial light, you're going to carry certain instances that have too. This is why you have a Chiron sign. So for an example, Chiron heals wounds. So obviously Chiron is an asteroid that's been getting wounded on its travels. So when we look at Chiron, Chiron is like an asteroid that's just stumbling and falling and crashing into all circumstances. So whatever area of life or whatever space or location Chiron was in the day you was born, that's the turbulence effects that you may start receiving because you're up under that light with your snapshot. So Chiron is an asteroid that stumbles and run into a bunch of shit. It's always getting wounded, but it's still alive and it's still up and running because it figured out ways how to heal itself. So the space and area, aka the sign it was in when you was born, it was doing that in that area of life. So in your life, it's going to play out through characteristics of when you're stumbling and falling and situations that you keep going through over and over again. That puts you in situations of feeling like you feel defeated or you feel like you fail or even falling. The way you fall to a certain degree, literally. And things of that nature is dealing with Chiron. You know what I'm saying? Stumbling and not seeing things clearly and cloudy. Sometimes Chiron will come in front of a light source that you need to see and it may block it. So it creates an illusion that it'll make you stumble and fall when you had to go to the initial light. You know what I'm saying? So let's talk about it. It takes you off course. So for the most part, when you start to witness these stumbles and falls in your life, it's actually for you to, when say you fall literally, what a person say? Get back up. You live to fall another day. Like get back up, suck it up. You know what I'm saying? And eventually, when you fall again, it start not hurting as much because you end up picking yourself back up. So that's as a kid. Once you become a teen and an adult, you may fall in certain circumstances and situations, but you get strong enough to pick yourself back up. You know what I'm saying? So now you're falling in higher dimensions. You see what I'm saying? But all this is strength to Chiron. You see what I'm saying? Now, Chiron in a fire sign, right? Which means Chiron, when you was born, Chiron was in a space and a location that was ran by the fire energy. You know what I'm saying? So the fire element, so the signs that it's in is ruled by the fire element. So these are the stumbles and falls that you're going to witness in your life, but at the same time, depending on which fire is how. So if it's the first fire, which is Aries, you're going to witness a lot of stumbles and falls when it comes to your own personality or clashing with other people's personalities or a lot of misunderstandings when it comes to ways of seeing things and ways of feeling about things and how you're supposed to conduct yourself and dealing with your own personality and not knowing yourself and things of that nature. So going into situations indecisive where you're supposed to be decisive, going into situations where you're supposed to know yourself but you don't know yourself, so you get taken advantage of and things of that nature. That's what stumbles and falls you may witness with a Chiron in Aries. Now, Chiron and Leo, you may witness a lot of stumbles and falls when it comes to things of stubbornness, self-centeredness, trying to get the attention too much to the point that you end up getting embarrassed a lot of times. A lot of your vitality get taken. Instead of getting your pride and getting stroked, your fur getting stroked, you getting cast out into the wilderness and getting forced to be put out, and you the one who go fetch what's to eat and things of that nature. So you get a lot of responsibility and workload putting on you based on your misunderstanding of how you see things and how you view things from your own viewpoint and your own spirit and your own intuition. So you having a lot of misunderstandings. You may a lot of times a lot of people come take a lot of energy force from you, aka they come take a lot of spotlight from you, a lot of attention get took from you. You may get a lot of people who come into your life who just know how to take the attention away from you and things of that nature. And even though these people may not see it this way, this is how you see it. So you may get into negative type altercations where you're fighting for really energy, attention a lot of times, and it might play out through certain circumstances and situations where you're fighting for petty things and things that really don't mean nothing that's worth fighting, but really is dealing with ego and things of that nature and being embarrassed and stuff. Now, with Chiron being a Sag, a lot of times you're going to experience a lot of stumbles and falls over being misguided, having a misunderstanding on how multiple people may feel and see things, or the broad perspective of things, having a misunderstanding about your religion or spirituality to the point that it take you through all kind of stumbles and falls. These are the people who may blame their religion a lot of times based upon the circumstance that they in. So they get into a situation where they start cursing out their Pacific gods and things. And a Chiron and Sag is a person who may express themselves very freely, so they align themselves with a bunch of different type people, but these people end up being manipulative or using them, taking advantage of these people's vitality and energy and optimism and things of that nature. So these people may end up with the wrong ends with the wrong people, or end up doing the wrong thing that they end up crashing to the point that they're around the wrong people. Things end up crashing literally, like end up in car accidents and things of that nature. So keep that in mind with a Chiron and Sag. Is very reckless and Sag because you misguided amongst the wisdom and meanings of reasonings in your life, and you stumble across, like it's like it'll play out like you got this one meaning of reasoning based upon how you was raised or who you was around, and then you've been thinking that for so long, then you experience a situation that just flip things upside down. So you're like, man, this shit ain't even that way, whatever like that. You go through a lot of those with a Chiron and Sag. Now Chiron's in Earth. Now Chiron in Earth plays out where a person may stumble and fall on reality basis and practical basis and things that make sense. So with a Chiron in Taurus, a person may sit here and stumble and fall over stability. They may stumble and fall over the things that they have. So in that area, it'll play out like a overly stingy Taurus, a person who's very materialistic. So they witness a lot of hardship in their life, and a lot of not having in their life. A lot of times it'll play out where these people stumble and fall over values, like they start valuing the wrong things and things of that nature. So they may value this, and this take them through all kind of circumstances and situations and ups and downs in their lives until they understand that this is not something they should value. So it's like it'll heal your wounds by putting you through a wound, or making you hurt in some type of way. You know what I'm saying? Chiron and Virgo play out in ways of where a person may go through a lot of stumbles and falls over something that they're working on, or something that they're analyzing, or have probably missed the details or something. Like they criticized a person a certain way, and then had a certain once they criticize that person, they start to dive into certain details, thinking how this person is, and then ended up being wrong. Like this person may end up beating their ass, or this person may end up putting them in a situation that hurt them more than helped them, and things of that nature. It can play out and missing over how things work and things of that nature. So Chiron and Virgo can play out like that. You stumbling and falling over what you think makes sense to yourself and others. Now Chiron and Now let's say Chiron and Capricorn. Now Chiron and Capricorn, you're gonna stumble and fall over a bunch of new business ventures, bunch of new ideas, bunch of new thoughts. Like you gotta, but like, cause Capricorn is more like new thoughts and ideas on enterprising and things of that nature. So it's new ideas, new and new thoughts based upon practicality and what makes sense, and initiating and creating new ones, new common sense and new ideas and things. So with Capricorn here, you will stumble and fall. You'll be the person who jumped the gun. You'll be the person who top gambler. You'll probably be the person who put all your money in this business and that business ain't go nowhere. You know what I'm saying? So you go through a lot of these type of experiences. You put all your eggs in one basket. You may put all your responsibility on something or a person or a place or thing, thinking that these people are going to be a footstool or something. Like, so you end up stumbling and falling. You end up thinking that your friends are employees, and they see these are the negative attributes. You could have no business in the world, but you got a Chiron and Capricorn. For some strange reason, you think you and your friends, all y'all do is play games every day. How did they turn into your employees for some reason? You see what I'm saying? And you ain't even got nothing, no organization to work on. It's just how the hell you end up start looking at them like, yo, so now it's their job to play the game with you all the time. You see what I'm saying? It's like, it's deep. But that's the negative attribute it can play. Now, Chiron and water. Now, Chiron and water, we can start with like Pisces. Now, Chiron with water, you're going to be stumbling and falling and crashing into everything in the water mechanism. So what happens here is what it's like, with the Pisces, you're stumbling and falling over understanding the emotional stance of yourself and others. So not knowing how to go with the vibe. You're going to always be nervous, always feel uncomfortable around groups of people and things of that nature. You always get took off. It's easy for you to get took off your vibe. You know what I'm saying? So with Chiron and Pisces, that's how it can happen. You get easily took off your vibe and easily like be stumbling and falling over other people's problems, other people's emotions, other people's stance, what other people feel about. And a lot of times you assume how other person feels. So you would categorize your actions around how another person feel and cater to that, and that person may not even necessarily feel like that. So you done left yourself open to get taken advantage of. You see what I'm saying? So you gotta be aware when you got Chiron and Pisces. Now Chiron and let's go to Cancer. Now Chiron and Cancer. Now you're gonna go through a lot of stumbles and falls and things of that nature when it comes to dealing with the emotions and feelings. That's good, man. When it's dealing with the emotions and feelings, and when it's dealing with you about to be in front of the oh no, you good though. But when you're dealing with the emotions and feelings, so a lot of times you may misunderstand someone's emotional stance on something, to the point that if your Chiron in Cancer, say you might misunderstand someone else's emotions and feelings, right? So you keep manipulating them and this, that, and the third, and they might just beat your ass or some shit like that. So you see what I'm saying? You gotta think. You're gonna have a lot of stumbles and falls when it comes over your emotional stance on things and how you feel about things and how things come across. So a lot of times you may put yourself in a lot of moody moments off the bat, just up front, when you step in the realms of realities, when your Chiron is in Cancer. Now, Chiron and Scorpio. Now, Chiron and Scorpio, what happens here is, now, your Chiron is stumbling and falling way in the deep end. So a lot of times it can't even see. It's in a realm of reality it can't even see in. So a lot of time Chiron is running into shit and don't even know what it's running into. So right there, it's like, what happens here is, you got your own fixated, with a Chiron and Scorpio, you got your own fixated emotions and feelings, and you just keep stumbling and falling over those. So you could be your own worst enemy with a Chiron and Scorpio, because when you think deeply about things and start attaching deep emotions and feelings behind things that may not even be the way it is, but it's just the way you see it. So you start acting in those ways and things of that nature. You could be stumbling and falling over your own issues, your own problems. You could have an issue with a Chiron and Scorpio. You could have an issue with somebody, and that might not even be the issue. It might be a fixated issue that you created with yourself, that with this person, and then you end up bringing this into reality. And this person could have probably been the best person in your life, but you went in your own world and stumbled and fell over all those mechanisms and things of that nature. And then last but not least, with Chirons being in air. Now with Chirons being in air, you just being blown all over the place and stumbling and running into shit in the air. So let's start with Chiron and Gemini. Now with a Chiron, and then I got Chiron and Gemini. So with Chiron and Gemini, what happens here is, your asteroid is running and just stumbling over miscommunication, misunderstanding how other people may think about things. So it'll play out negatively in your life, where you may pre-assume how somebody else think, or how somebody else communicate, or how somebody else do in their social awareness. So a lot of times you'll put yourself on a wrong side of someone else's energy based upon you assuming things and things of that nature. Also, stumbling and falling, not really being sure of how other people think, so you not even being sure of how to think of yourself a lot of times, or how. So a lot of times you take a way more time communicating with yourself than communicating with others and things of that nature. So Chiron and Gemini is like a mind fuck in your own head. Now, Chiron and Libra. Now, with a Chiron and Libra, what happens here is you're going to be stumbling and falling and crashing into all kind of relationships and all kind of balance issues and things of that nature, and all kind of situations where you're dealing with balance and relating to people and things of that nature. Especially when you come to like justice, laws, and things of that nature. When you talk about Chiron and Libra, you may stumble and fall over wrong relationships, wrong not having balance with yourself to the point that you get taken advantage of by someone else's energy, putting too much of yourself into others. Also with Chiron being a Libra, also you may stumble and fall over a lot of miscommunication. Also, you may thought that you and a person was relating in some type of way, then they may show something that show you that they stabbed you in your behind your back in some type of way. Right there, let you know that you may have Chiron and Libra, so you have to learn how to balance yourself with others so you can relate on the same page. And last but not least, with a Chiron and Aquarius, you're gonna be stumbling and falling all over all kind of ways of your own way of thinking and your own way of analyzing about things. So what happens here is you're gonna stumble and fall over relationships with and associates. You know what I'm saying? You may think this associate is more than a friend a lot of times, and then you put more trust or more energy into this associate, and this associate don't do nothing but show you actions that show you that you should have been with your friend that you haven't been thinking about or calling recently. So a Chiron and an Aquarius will play out like that, and it'll play out through circumstances, situations in your life where you have that's a misunderstanding. A lot of times, Chirons and Aquarius, these people get confused between their friends and family to the point that they're called their family friends and they're called their friends family. You see what I'm saying? And it mix confused things. A lot of times, people with Chirons and Aquarius, a lot of times these people may be afraid to be unique and original. So if you even have a son in Aquarius, if you're Chiron in Aquarius too, a lot of times you'll overthink being different. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of times these people think like man, I am different, but if I show this difference to others, I'll be ridiculed in a negative way. So see, Chiron stumbling and falls over those mechanisms and areas when it comes to Aquarius. So a person will be afraid to step into their uniqueness and originality to the fullest. Also with Chiron being in Aquarius. So keep that in mind also. So yeah, that's just a quick video I wanted to do on Chiron. Air flight boss.